Good morning. Good morning, my friends. I was just making sure we're actually live here on Facebook and turning my volume down so you don't hear the feedback from my phone here. Hello and welcome back to the EQ Skills Clinic. Happy Thursday. Happy mid-August. I don't even know how that happened. The summer is absolutely flying by. It is flying by. I know that many of you are taking some time off. You are traveling. You are enjoying the last couple of weeks of summer, and I'm glad that you're doing that. I am here this week. I'm going to be here again with you next week for another live teaching. And then I'm taking the last week of August off. I take the last week of August off every single year to basically putz around with my daughter. We don't necessarily go away the last week of August, but it sort of feels like our final opportunity to just soak up the last little bits of summer, to kind of really enjoy ourselves, do that back to school shopping. And so I won't be here inside the EQ lab. I'll probably poke my head in virtually every now and again just to kind of see what's going on in here, but we will not have a live on the last week of August. So if you are joining me today, if you're joining me live, I know that, many of you are not live these days in August, but if you are live, give me a hello, drop a comment for me, drop an emoji, let me know that you are here with us live. And if you are catching the replay, as so many of you do every single week, give me a hashtag replay so that I know that you have caught this particular piece of content. It lets myself and my team know what content you are interested in, what areas you want more support in. It allows us to really plan our programming and our content around your needs. So I know we've also had several new members here inside the EQ Lab. So if it is your first time here, let me know that as well. Let me know that you are a first timer to the EQ Skills Clinic. Let me tell you a little bit about what goes down here on Thursdays. I will briefly introduce myself, and then we're going to jump into today's teaching because it's a pretty good piece of content that I have for you. I'm really excited for today's live teaching. So the EQ Skills Clinic, let me tell you what this Thursday live is. So I show up here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Most of you catch me on the replay, but I want you to know that every single week there will be a short, I try to keep it to about 20 minutes, but I can be a bit chatty. A short training for you specifically on emotional intelligence skills, specifically for high-powered women. So if you're new to the EQ Lab, this is a place where I deliver training, where we deliver support, we deliver all kinds of different programming all around emotional intelligence. So we teach women how to master their emotions, how to communicate fearlessly, and how to elevate their relationships. And most of the women inside of this community are really interested in doing those things both personally and professionally. So the EQ Skills Clinic is a weekly live that I offer to you completely free of charge. It is our gift to you so that you can continue to dial in your EQ skills, hence the name, EQ Skills Clinic. I thought it was pretty clever. Hello, Brianna. It's good to see you. It's really good to see you. So let me introduce myself as well. My name is Dr. Shamala. I'm an ex-therapist. If you haven't heard my podcast, it's called Confessions of an Ex-Therapist. I practiced as a registered psychotherapist and registered couple and family therapist for almost 2 decades. I have an incredible team of clinicians that deliver individual, couple, and family therapy at the Kiru Psychotherapy Clinic. I am also the founder of the Kiru Coaching Clinic. And this is where we deliver programs like this. This is where we deliver programming inside of the EQ Lab, as well as the EQ Code, which is our private group program. It is a 6-month coaching program for women who really want to go deeper with skills around emotional mastery, fearless communication, and better relationship management. I am, as you know, a podcast host. I have been a media expert for over a decade now, and I'm a wife and I'm a very proud mom. So I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to join us inside of this community. I think it's a really, really special space. And I am glad that you are here for this weekly training. In today's conversation, we are going to be talking about your emotional charge in communication. So what does this mean, emotional charge in communication? So let's start with this particular concept. Communication truly originates from your mind, not from your mouth, okay? So communication starts, it is birthed, it is nurtured, it is cultivated in your mind, right? So everything that comes out of your mouth, not just the words that you use, but the emotion and the energy and the vibe that you bring to everything that you say actually has very little to do with your mouth, right? So what gets expressed verbally actually originates in our mind. So that's the foundational concept that I want us to start with today. And that's what I really want us to be thinking about as we move through today's teaching. So what we say to ourselves about the person that we are communicating with, or what we say to ourselves about the topic that we are communicating about, is what creates the emotional charge in that conversation. So let me kind of back that up a little bit, because there's a couple of really important statements there. So when you're in a difficult conversation, for example, because this is something that I talk a lot about with my private clients, is how to navigate difficult conversations. Okay, how do we deliver information that's difficult? How do we ask for what we need without getting aggressive? You know, how do we set boundaries at work, let's say, without that fear, that guilt, you know, those sort of negative emotions that as women in particular, I think we have really come to associate with difficult conversations, right? So in these difficult conversations, we always carry a narrative with us, okay? So in any difficult conversation, there is a narrative that we carry into that conversation. And there's a lot I could say about this, but for the sake of today's teaching, what I want you to think about is, what is it that you're saying to yourself? What is the narrative that you are carrying about the person that you are communicating with? So in order for this particular teaching to really make sense to you, you'll need to think about somebody, right? Like, you'll need to think about a real live person that is in your life, that you're in relationship with. It could be your boss, it could be your teammate, could be your assistant, could be your partner, could be your parent. It doesn't really matter, okay? Who is that person that you are in relationship with, that you are maybe struggling to communicate with? Like, there's some tension there. And what is it that you are saying to yourself about that particular person? Another question you could ask yourself to really begin to identify your emotional charge in those conversations is, what am I saying to myself about perhaps the topic that I am communicating about, right? Am I telling myself that this is an all or nothing issue? Am I telling myself that it has to go a particular way? Am I telling myself that if it doesn't go a particular way, well, then we're completely doomed, okay? So those are two questions that I want you to begin to think about. What am I telling myself about the person I'm communicating with? And what am I telling myself about the topic that I'm communicating about? This is what creates the emotional charge in conversations, okay? So it's our thoughts about the person or about the conversation itself that determines the emotional charge, the emotional energy that we bring to that particular conversation, okay? The other thing to really think about, the other concept to really think about, is that the emotional charge isn't created by a single thought. It's not one single thought that creates your emotional charge. It's not a single thought that creates your mood, your energy, your vibe. That's not how it works. The emotional charge that you bring to your conversations is created actually by the patterned way that you think about this person and about certain types of conversations. So let me give you an example. If I have a patterned way of thinking, if I believe that, conflict is bad, if I believe that, oh my gosh, I can't be honest about my feelings, if I have this patterned way of thinking about difficult conversations, that's going to impact the emotional charge that I bring to those conversations, okay? So here are some common emotional charges that we can hold and the impact that they have on our communication. So let's have a look at that. So let's look at the types of emotions that would create a negative emotional charge. Okay, so let's start with resentment. Resentment is a very, very, very common negative emotion that I see a lot of women holding, that really does set the conversation up for complaints. It often invites subtle attacks, and it definitely invites passive aggressive communication. Okay, so resentment. The next emotion is anger. Anger is another emotion that I see a lot. And anger is often like this buildup of not having communicated what you want, what you need, what you desire, what you think, what you feel. Okay. And when we bring anger into a conversation as a negative emotional charge, it sets the conversation up for high conflict, for blame, and for aggression. Okay, so when we bring anger as an emotional charge into difficult conversations, we are actually setting the conversation up for high conflict. We're not setting it up for resolution. We're not setting it up for solutions. We're setting it up for high conflict, blame, and aggression. The next emotion that I see quite often, and that is really quite problematic, is contempt. It's feeling contempt for the other person, okay? It sets the conversation up for what I would consider a stalemate, right? It's like we're at a total impasse. There's no movement. We're gridlocked. There's a rigidity to the conversation, and there's often intense passive aggression, okay? So resentment, anger, and contempt are three emotions that I see often that really deliver a negative emotional charge when we're communicating. And the interesting thing about these emotional charges is, particularly for women, they can often really be lying underneath the surface. We think we're not expressing them. We think that we are hiding these emotions, but the people that we are in relationship with, and this is not just personal relationships, this is absolutely true of our professional relationships, they can feel this negative emotional charge, okay? The next set of emotions that I want to introduce you to are what I would consider emotions that really deliver a positive emotional charge. So what are those emotions that we can identify, that we can practice holding, that would actually deliver a positive emotional charge? So the first one is hope. Right? Hope. Hope creates space for solutions. Hope creates space for possibilities. Hope even creates space for excitement, right? For newness in a relationship, for possibilities in a conversation. When we introduce hope as an emotion, it allows us to generate solutions. Okay, so hope is one of the primary emotions that can really deliver a positive emotional charge. The next one, it's not so much an emotion as it is, I would say, sort of a state of being, a way. It's definitely a mindset for sure, but it's sort of a state of being that we can bring to our conversations, and that is openness. Okay. If you have a sense of openness in your conversations, it creates space for exploration. It creates space for expansion, more expansive conversations, and for ongoing dialogue. One of the things that I think is really critical to fostering better relationships, more elevated relationships. So when I say elevated relationships, I mean, we're not just surviving, we're really thriving, right? We're really elevating our relationships. One of the things that's critical to elevated relationships is ongoing dialogue, right? And for most of us, we have this idea that we have to come to a solution, we have to come to a resolution, we have to come, somehow our conversations need to be like a math equation where 2 + 2 = 4, and we got to get there. And if we don't get there, then it's all wrong and we've wasted our time. I think that's a concept we need to move away from, and we need to move towards the concept of ongoing dialogue really being critical to fostering elevated relationships. Okay. And the final one that I want to share is probably no surprise to you, an emotion that really delivers a positive emotional charge, and that's love. Right? The emotion of love. And I think love is such an interesting emotion. I think that, as I've gotten older, I realize that the feeling of love takes different forms inside of me, right? Like sometimes for me, love is just like pure joy. Okay. Sometimes for me, love is this deep sense of gratitude. And it's interesting because I talk a lot about love languages. My primary love language, if you don't know, is words of affirmation. And so one of the ways I often expressed affection to my partner was to say, I love you, right? It was a very common way that I expressed affection towards him. And, more recently, I've been playing with, what are some other words that I can use? What are some other expressions that I can use to express my love for him, right? That's something I've been sort of playing with. And one of the things I've been sort of drawn to is using gratitude as an expression of love, right? So I feel so grateful that we have this time together, right? I feel so grateful for the life that we have created together. I feel so grateful for, this beautiful day that we are enjoying together. Okay. So when I say that love is one of those emotions that really can deliver that positive charge, that positive emotional charge, let's think outside the box a little bit with love. Let's think about the different ways that we can actually express that emotion. Okay. Either way, whatever way you choose to express love, what it does do is it creates space for compromise. It invites a sense of co-creation, and it invites a sense of ongoing growth together. So as you think about what we've discussed today, those pieces, those emotions that really create that negative emotional charge, I'm going to remind you: resentment, anger, contempt. And then the positive emotional charge, the most common emotions that really do deliver that positive emotional charge: hope, openness, and love. I want you to take stock of the emotional charge that you bring to your communication. So often we can get caught up in what the other person is doing, right? The energy that the other person is bringing. But what I want you to actually think about, what I want to invite you to really think about is, what is the emotional charge that you bring to your communication, to your conversations? I want you to identify the emotions that are closing off access to intimacy and practice the emotions that charge your communication with expansion, with freedom, and with possibility. If this is resonating for you, if you want more support with some of these concepts, just reach out, right? So just reach out to myself, reach out to my team. We always leave links for you so that you can access us. You can book a free strategy call with me. You can reach out to a member of my team. But if there's anything here that resonates and you want to go deeper with this work, I would absolutely invite you to do that. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. We ran a 4-day course last week. We ran it live, but it's actually an evergreen course. It was called Emotion and Energy in Communication. If you missed out on the live teaching, you can still access this course. We have all the recordings. It is an incredible way to really dig deeper with communication. It's really like if today's topic resonated for you, the 4-module course, Emotion and Energy in Communication, goes way deeper on these concepts and gives you a blueprint, a framework that you can use to really bring a different emotion and different energy to your conversations. So if that is something that is of interest to you, just leave a comment below and myself or Brianna will reach back out to you and we will send you the link so that you can learn a little bit more about the course. And if it seems like a good fit for you, you can absolutely register for that. If you've been hanging out here for a while and you want to jump on a call to determine if working together might be the right next step for you, we will drop that link below as well so that you can actually book a call with myself and see if working with me inside of the EQ code might be the step that you take to really unlock that next level. All right, my friends, it was so amazing to see you, and I will see you next week.